All right, wonderful. It looks like we are live now, and it is an absolute pleasure to be talking with Dr. Vilma Luz Cabán today. How are you, Vilma?
Hello, how are you, Liz?
Good. I'm very well, and we are celebrating the release of The Heart of an Advocate, your
Oh,
new book. And I'd love to hear from you a little bit about what has inspired you to write this book and put it out there. Can you tell a little bit about the inspiration for
sure,
this?
sure. About 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago, my mom passed away from cancer. And I felt that I needed to have part of a healing experience to do something in her memory. And my mother is a woman who was battered in an abusive relationship for many years. She stayed in a relationship for a very long time, several decades. And by the time she passed away, she was living her best free life. And so I wanted to find a way to celebrate that and to kind of frame her story. So I did some domestic violence research in the Dominican Republic and in Puerto Rico. And that kind of really evolved into doing other forms of humanitarian research. But as I'm coming now to the end of my career and I'm thinking about what I want to do now, in my life, I feel like I still want to honor my mother because at the age where, she wanted to live in this house to get away from my stepfather, she never got to do that. And so I made a promise to her that I would fix her home. And this project is a part of making that dream come true. It's getting the story out there. And my dream, believe it or not, is to open up my own publishing house in Puerto Rico. And I felt that how is I going to do that if I have not gone through that experience? So I'm using all of this to be able to kind of prepare my steps to move in that direction.
Mm. And of course, as you say that, my heart just warms. And just when I met you and you told me your dream, I went, whoa, I need to be part of this. I need to,
Mhm.
help you in this way. And it's been such an honor to work with you and to publish your book, and it's resonating with people. It is #1 bestseller in 2 different categories,
Can't
number
believe
1
it.
new release,
I
and
can't.
in categories that are really quite beautiful and reflective of the work you do. One of them is in human rights, which you've done so much advocacy and research in that area, and put your life out on the line, as you tell about in the book, of traveling the world to advocate for women and children. And it's so beautiful. And the other category is in education policy and reform, which you have lived it as an educator for 30 years,
Oh my goodness.
putting your name out there,
Over 30 years. I'm entering this is my 32nd year of teaching.
oh, amazing,
Yes.
amazing.
And I just feel like I'm in a new season, and I hope that I can inspire teachers who have a passion for teaching to prepare themselves for this next chapter in their life, that it can continue to be purposeful because we are so passionate about our careers. And so many times when we leave that profession, we can feel at a loss. So my goal is to model how we can nurture those passion projects in our career, in the midst of our teaching, as well as in any career, so that when you get to this change of season, you feel equipped to be able to still pursue what makes you happy.
And we were talking about before we went live about how a lot of your work has been in the research field, and there's a particular scholarly way that needs to be presented, right? And so this is a shift in that you are the subject of this, right? This book is your life experience from starting from when you were basically before you were born, actually, because you
Yeah.
talk about that and growing up in New York, and then it brings us through how you became a teacher and moved into that and grew in that area, and then into this global trek this of helping with equity, building equity and helping women and children get that and advocating for them. It's a little bit different experience. And I know you felt a little, I
Oh
don't
my
know, like
goodness.
vulnerable or weird, or should I be
I
writing in this
struggle, and I
way?
still struggle even in
Right.
recommending the work, but I
Mhm.
realize that it's a hybrid. And so we're breaking ground as a publishing house. Thank you for believing in my work, because what we're doing is we're breaking ground, and it's a hybrid of a memoir with what we call an ethnographical research. Ethnography in the study of social sciences is about looking at a cultural phenomena through the lens of a subject. And in this case, they through face-to-face interviews, through observations in the field. And that's the work that I was doing with the girls in Kenya, battling FGM, female genital mutilation, as well as children in the streets of Morocco and Guatemala, looking at domestic violence victims in the Dominican Republic and in Puerto Rico. I realized that here I was as a writer, now using myself as the subject. It required suspending some, clearly some subjectivity, but at the same time, I bring a unique voice in the voice of the subject to this phenomena. So I feel like when folks purchase this book, yes, they're getting a very tender story of a young little girl that is hurt and is now, growing up and building getting stronger and getting a set of strategies and skills to help her break through. But
Mhm.
at the same time, they're getting golden nuggets of research findings and research experiences that I think can help future social work departments of behavioral science. All of that, I believe, is going to be kind of like breaking ground. And I hope that this can set a place for this form of hybrid writing, because, the personal, I say in the book, is political. And to be able to ratify and impact change, hearing from the subjects themselves intimately is a way to continue to move the work forward. So I hope that this memoir captures that and can kind of position social scientists to be able to really look into this cultural phenomena of domestic violence with a closer lens.
Mm. And I think from a social work perspective, where I come from, there's a, I don't know how to say this exactly, but something I like to see broken is this idea of other, people being different than us, right? A researcher looking objectively at this group of people that we're studying, when so many people are drawn to this field, the social sciences and education, because they want to make a difference, because they've lived a certain way and they want to help other people that might be in that situation not face that. So if we can break ground with this, of allowing more openings for people who have lived experience in this to educate others about what that is like, instead of it just being some kind of outside researcher's perspective on another group of people, massive power in that. So I love that you have done that here with your
Thank you.
work, and
It
thank you for
wasn't
including me in
easy.
that. Like, heck
Oh,
yeah.
it's not easy. I
Right.
even today, I read those first two chapters of me being a little girl, and I cringe because I say, "Oh, they're so simplistic. The vocabulary, it's so simple." And I worried about it, and I thought, no, they need to see that, because that little girl, that hurt little girl, ends up being where she is now. So I hope that they can get past that simplistic language and really get to the heart of the story, which is the heart of this advocate.
Yes. And so a lot of our audience are people that are writers themselves, many of which are writing their personal stories. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit about what that experience was like, especially writing some of the sensitive things about when you were young and growing up. What was that like for you?
I have to say, being an educator, being a teacher, I believe that in order for us to teach something right, we have to be the best students of the craft. So I here I was modeling for students all the time, look for an artifact that can conjure up, memories if you're writing a personal narrative for students, or look for, maybe do a sketch to activate some thinking. And so here I was teaching that, but I was not applying it because it was still too challenging. So what I did was I kind of plotted through, and I had a list of things that I wanted to cover. And when I felt like I can activate some courage and boldness, I would take one of those and I used it almost like a seed for my writing. And I would literally write powerfully. So I would set a timer for 5 minutes. And I said to myself, I'm going to write fast and furious, powerfully on this topic. I'm not going to worry about what it sounds like. I'm not going to worry about the craft. I'm just going to get it out. And so I would do that. And then what I would do is the next step was I would record myself looking at what I was reading. And I videotaped myself doing that. Now, I know that sounds a little odd, but what I was watching was my face. When I replayed it again, I realized that the part of that dissonance that was on my face was there was still a story in there. I needed to get it out. And so that's when I would I would type what I wrote down furiously, put it on a Microsoft Word document. Wherever I saw my face react, or wherever I knew in my gut I didn't feel right, I left a space. And that was the gap in my story. And so every time I would get back, my objective was to fill in the gap. I was not going to worry so much about what was written. I wasn't going to reframe it. I wasn't going to retype it. My goal was to fill in the story. When I did that, it started to grow. And that's where I started to feel like, okay, I have fleshed out that little seed. And then I would just keep doing this, because if you look at it as an all-encompassing one long linear path, you will just feel overwhelmed. And this work requires it's like laying brick, layer by layer. And that's what this work was about, bit by bit.
Beautiful. That's such an interesting way of gaining insight on it, right? Just to actually observe ourselves in the moment.
It was not easy. In fact, one of the hardest chapters was cornered by a chief. And boy, that was heart-wrenching, because here I was as a child, dealing with trauma, but now as an adult, I had to face it again. And I had to ask permission for a dear soul that loves me and cherishes me. And I recorded myself telling that story as the person was cooking. They were not sitting next to me or looking at me. They were cooking. And I was sitting in their kitchen and just set it down. And I watched myself tell the story. The same thing. I then made a transcript of what I wrote. And then from there, I did the same thing. Where are the gaps in the story? Where's the part that you didn't want to say because you were embarrassed they were going to judge you, right? Or where's the part that, the inner critic was like on fire? That's the gaps. And that's where I filled it in.
That's amazing. That will help so many people, I think, as they go to write their story. And also so you had some interesting things to share about the word advocate that is in the title, and kind of making peace with yourself in that seat of owning that word for yourself.
Yes. I had a real hard time. First, when my son saw the title, he got so emotional, and he said, "Mom, you have the perfect title." And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yes, Mom. Yes, the heart of an advocate. That's like the perfect title." And I go, "Why?" He goes, "Mom, everyone wants to be led from what makes them happy. And that's the heart. And you followed your heart, and that you wanted to advocate for others is just wonderful. It's altruistic. It's compelling." And I thought, thank you, sweetheart. Thank you so much for believing in this work. And, as I started, I had a friend who told me, "Vilma, you know what? You're an advocate." And I resisted that title for a long time. I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. I'm a friend. I'm a goofball. All of the things that, I felt like I am. But advocate, no way. And so what did I do? It sounds so geeky. I go to Merriam-Webster and I read the definition. And then I thought, oh, wow. And of course, breaking down the word, ad means to move forward. VOC in advocate is like in Spanish, voice. So what I essentially did was move forward, elevating or amplifying the voices of those who desperately needed help, which was our women and our children that were really in compromising situations. So that's why the heart of an advocate came about, because I really believe in the power of that word. So I have my moderator, my best friend, Rachel Torres. She's going to be there for my book launch October 8th, and the start of my book tour, October 21st in White Plains. And so she gets the book and she's like tagging it and writing it. And she says, I found 28 acts of advocacy that you did in your book. And I said, oh my God, really? She goes, yes. So I know that it rang true for her, that, you know, we all, how many times have we not advocated for a dear friend? You know, they have shared something to us, and we're like that alternative voice going, really? You sure you want to do that? I don't know. I think you could do it. Let's try this. And right. Or we're advocating for others. I really believe so-and-so would be great for this position. Let's give that person a chance. Or, you know what, they're rallying something at church. They're doing a crowdfunding for an event to support a local mission. You know, people are constantly, these are all signs of advocacy. When you decide to participate in a walkathon for, you know, leukemia or lymphoma, you are advocating for all those victims, right? All those sad families, the people who are heartbroken, but you want them to feel like they're making a difference. You're advocating on their behalf. So I think we really have to take a close look at the word advocacy and try to see it's a multi-dimensional diamond. What part of it is you in your work, in the nature of your work, in your nature of being a good neighbor, being a parent, advocating for the needs of your child? All of that rings true when we think about an advocate. It's just not someone in the courtroom, a lawyer, or someone who's advocating for maybe immigrants, you know, seeking asylum. There's so much more.
Yes, and that's something that all of us can take something from and really step into, right? That we can say, hey, this is something that I can embody, and it's being the voice of somebody else that might not be able to be that voice in that moment, right? And it can be big and it can be small, right?
Exactly.
And all making a difference. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. You are such an inspiration. I can't wait to see all the people that you help through sharing your story and helping them share their voices and their stories as well. And the book is available in ebook and paperback. It's available on Amazon, and you can also connect with you through your website, vilmaluzcaban.com, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful.
I hope, you know, we definitely can move this advocacy work forward. And my dream, Liz, one day when I grow up and I open up a publishing house in Puerto Rico, I hope you can join our beautiful group of writers and inspire each other, because it's about creating capacity. So thank you for believing in my mission. Thank you for believing in my voice. I can't thank you and your team enough for what you're doing to empower the next generation of writers. Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you. I can't wait to be there. I see we have the pictures in the back of the book that you can take a peek
yes.
of the house being together. So yes. Yes.
And we'll have a ribbon cutting ceremony. We'll bring the bomba dancers. We will have a beautiful fire, and it'll be magical. So yes, one day.
Wonderful. I hold that dream with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.